Hey everyone, this is SynaMax, and welcome to part 2 of how to recreate Metroid Prime music. In the last video, we did an overview of all the various music equipment and sample libraries used to create the soundtracks, and then started work on a cover of the Torvus Bog theme from Metroid Prime 2. In this video, we're going to add more elements from the EMU Orbit 3 sound module, while getting an in-depth look at what it takes to analyze, sequence, and record every element that makes up this track. Let's add the hi-hats. The preset used is called Post Groove and is located in the Beat Garden ROM. A lot of trial and error was done here to make sure the velocity of the notes matched up with what you hear in the original track. I used the spectrum view in Edison to compare the hi-hat frequencies between the original track and my recording, making adjustments to the velocity of the notes along the way. Once I have the notes sounding how I want, I record the sequence and paste the audio clips into the song. In addition to the main hi-hat pattern, there's 2 other patterns that play occasionally, so we'll record those as well. When it comes to recording sounds, including loops, I play back just one instance of the pattern instead of looping the sequence, and I make sure to continue recording until the audio gets completely silent again. Doing this allows me to preserve the sound's natural decay back into silence as the pattern finishes. Instead of clipping off that trailing end to make a loop, we overlap the audio clips with one another, creating a seamless loop. As long as the audio clip can be triggered by a sequencer, it doesn't matter how short or long the recorded audio is. Next, let's add the kick drum for Torvus Bog. When I started making this cover, I had no idea what was used, so I had to locate the correct sample. One trick to finding sounds with a lot of bass is to speed up the reference track and see if you can better hear the sound and its timbre. After doing this, I noticed that the sped up drum sound reminded me of an Orbit 3 preset called Alien Steps, which was used for some Dark Samus cues in Agon Oasis. Sure enough, after comparing the spectrum view of the original track and my test recording of the preset, I confirmed that the Torvus Bog kick drum was indeed Alien Steps. At least part of it, but we'll get back to that later. Another big preset mystery was finally solved after identifying the correct noise hits preset used throughout the track. The Orbit 3 contains several of these noise hits patches, the first one being most famously used in the main menu for Metroid Prime 1. Unlike the other noise hits patch, this one used for Torvus Bog is velocity sensitive and modulates a filter depending on how loud you play the note. This results in that characteristic resonant sound that was missing in the other preset. Not gonna lie, it kinda reminds me of the Joy Division song Insight off of their album Unknown Pleasures. Trying to sequence this sound was one of the most difficult and time-intensive parts of the project. It required a lot of patience as I went through each note and tried to match up the fine pitch of the sound with my MIDI notes. After 2 days of editing MIDI velocities, I felt that what I had was close enough and began recording the final audio. It turns out that the other drum fills in the track are also noise hits, this time using the original preset without that filter. Automating the velocity with this preset just changes the volume of the note, which is what we need to make these drum fills more dynamic. Again, we repeat the process of transcribing the notes and making sure the pitch and velocity match up with the original. Once we're happy with the sequencing, we record the audio and paste the clips into FL Studio's song playlist window. Up next are 2 snare samples from the Orbit 3. Both of them show up in Post Groove, which is the same preset we used for the hi-hats. The snare used on the upbeats is the same one heard in Talon Overworld and Hive Totem from the first game. However, an additional snare sample is used this time on the downbeats, which is a little bit unusual. Placing these snare samples on the downbeat, which is the same time the kick drum is played, results in the kick drum sounding more fuller and aggressive. Again, reaching this conclusion wasn't easy, as it involved auditioning dozens of different snare samples and then using spectrum analysis to identify and confirm a matching sound. I also added a stereo delay to the snares, which gives us a nice sense of depth and atmosphere to these samples. Using the reference track, I measured the time it takes between the dry snare sample and the first delay echoes for both left and right channels. Then use those time measurements in my delay plugins to recreate the effect. That's it for this part of the series. In the next episode, we'll start adding elements from the Korg MS-2000, Z-Time's Uncivilized Grooves sample library, and making final adjustments. If you want to listen to my Torvis Bog recreation cover or watch the oscilloscope view video, you could do so by heading over to the Metroid database website and scrolling down to the Prime Series section of their music page. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.